it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about some books that I've read recently that I really loved. I am very fed up with my hair today. I tried to do it with the skinnier Dyson barrel, but I feel like it ended up looking not very good. It doesn't look how I wanted it to, but anyways, that's not why we're here today. We are here because I have read some really great books recently that I haven't been able to give you guys my little recent reads review. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm not going to be spending too much time on every book because I don't want this video to be ages long, but I do want to share some ones that I've loved. So I will be talking about spoiler-free thoughts, so no worries if you haven't read any of these books, you are good, and I will have the chapters, timestamps, all of that down below. If you wanted to skip to a particular book, these are all the books that I will be talking about today. So let's just dive in. Thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. I got into a really bad habit last year of eating out a lot and just kind of being lazy in the kitchen, but HelloFresh has helped me to achieve one of my main goals, which is to get back into cooking this year. It has made it stress-free and so much fun too. I always love trying new recipes every week, and that is exactly what HelloFresh allows me to do without even having to go to the grocery store. Everything is delivered right to my door. Not only has this been helping me to eat better this year, but it also has been helping me to save some money because eating out is really expensive. HelloFresh is actually cheaper than grocery shopping, which we all know, especially in Canada at least, is really expensive right now, and it's 25% cheaper than eating out too, and I definitely have noticed a difference. But the ingredients are just as fresh. They end up from the farm to your house in less than 7 days. I feel like some days when I don't really feel like cooking, I'm feeling a little bit lazy. HelloFresh is something that I can still get behind because it takes so much of the work out of it. It's already done for me, which is really nice and helps me to stay on track, save money, and achieve my goals. If you guys were interested in checking out HelloFresh, I definitely recommend it. It has allowed me to try things that I never would have thought to try before and I've really enjoyed, but it's also taken all of the thought out of that. It's just so easy and delicious. But I definitely recommend it, and you guys can go to HelloFresh.com and use the code Bookland21 to get 21 free meals plus free shipping, which is such a great deal and a great way to try this out. I really don't think you'll be disappointed. I know I'm super busy, and it has just helped me to still eat these delicious home-cooked meals and try new things, but not really have to think about it all the time. So once again, that is HelloFresh.com, and you can use the code Bookland21 to get 21 free meals and free shipping. So definitely check it out, and thank you so much once again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. I think I'm actually going to start with the books that I have read the most recently, because some of these you will have heard about during Bookmas, but others are actually ones that I've read in 2023. So the first book is actually one that I finished yesterday, and that is The Guncle by Stephen Rowley, I think is how he said it. I listened to the audiobook and the author narrated it, and I realized I was saying his last name incorrectly. I think it was Rowley is how you say it, and I was saying Rowley. So that's my bad. But this is a story, it's very much like Raising Helen. I now remember the movie name, but it's like the Raising Helen movie, except you have two kids who have lost their mother. Their mother just passed away, and their dad is actually going to rehab. So they end up going to stay with their Guncle, gay Uncle Pat, and he is actually a former celebrity. So he's pretty famous. He's living in Hollywood. He's living his best retired life. He's pretty much retired from fame and all of that, but he ends up having these two kids unexpectedly and is trying to connect with them and raise them and all of that. And it is for a shorter period of time than it is in Raising Helen, but this was so sweet. I ended up really, really loving this one. It just warmed my heart, and I could not get enough. I could not stop smiling while reading it. There were so many sweet moments. The premise for it is honestly just top notch. It's one of those things that I didn't know that I needed this book, but once I had it, I was yeah, I absolutely needed this in my life, and I felt so much better for having read it. It's definitely one that will warm your soul and your heart and all of that, and that's coming from someone who honestly, I don't even like kids, but I did really like this book. The kids in this book were really sweet, and they had just been through a lot. So this this is definitely an emotional story as much as it is a fun story. It also has that level of emotion to it because the main character, he was really close with their mother, and he doesn't really know how to live without her. He's trying to learn that on his own while also having these kids who have just lost their mother, so they are obviously also going through a lot. So you see them process that grief together, but also create this like beautiful little family, and I just absolutely adored this one. Like, it was so much fun. I had a feeling I was going to like it, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I ended up loving it. If you follow me on TikTok or on Instagram, because I've actually been really into short form content, so if you wanted to follow me there, it's all at Hailey and Bookland, the same thing, but I have been posting daily and having a lot of fun with it. Basically, when I like finish a book, I kind of give my thoughts on it. So one of the books that I finished lately, and I could not stop talking about it when I finished it, is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This freaking book blew my mind. I ended up just falling in love with this story. Like, it is one of those books that I cannot stop thinking about, so then I can't stop recommending it. I just keep on talking about it. And this has actually been out for a couple of years now, but I just kind of took my time getting to it because The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite books of all time. So I was really nervous reading another book by her. I was like, will I like it? And like, yes, I really did. So I plan on reading The Four Winds. I'm just waiting for the paperback to come out. I do have another book by her on my TBR that I'm going to try and get to soon, just knowing how much I loved her stories. So this one is set in the 1970s and it is set in Alaska. And I will admit that premise just didn't really get me at first. It's not generally what I would reach for, but it's basically, in my opinion, it's like a better version of Where the Crawdads Sing. Like, it's kind of similar to that because you have a character who is surviving in unusual circumstances. Like, it's not a survivalist story, but it is kind of like an adventurous story. But definitely be aware of trigger warnings because it is a story that deals with abuse as well. But the main character, you're following her from a very young age as she moves to Alaska with her father, who is a Vietnam War vet, and he's struggling with PTSD and has a lot of issues because of that, and with her mother. And the three of them move to this like very remote Alaskan town, and it's just the story like of their lives there as they get used to it, and then everything that happens to them there. It's just a book that you should go into. Like, just read it. It is so beautiful. It kind of like, I just had so much emotions while reading it. I felt so heavy while reading it because I felt for the characters and was very invested in them. Like, Kristen Hanna does a great job of bringing those characters to life and transporting you to where the book is set, and that was absolutely what happened here. So I feel like this book was first and foremost about family more than it was about that romance, although there was a romance plot line, and I enjoyed that it focused on that. And by family, I mean specifically it was focusing on the mother-daughter relationship and survival, like all around, of all kinds. Survival where they're living, but also survival in the situation that they're in. It just absolutely blew my mind. Like, I wanted to read this one, but I ended up like pushing it up on my TBR because one of my friends had messaged me because she saw that I hadn't read it and was like, this book stuck with me, like, you need to read it. So then I read it and I was like, oh my God, like, I get it. Like, it's sticking with me even as I'm reading it. So yeah, this is fantastic. I could go on and on for ages, but really an amazing story. I guess I'm kind of gonna go in order of like when I read these, but as we get into the older ones, I don't really remember the order, but we're just gonna kind of grab them. So next is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I had really wanted to read this one because obviously it's the latest by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like, she's such a popular author and I have really enjoyed everything that I have read by her so far. And she writes about celebrities a lot. So obviously Evelyn Hugo is about like a movie star, an old Hollywood film star, and then Malibu Rising is about like just this famous group of siblings. And then Carrie Soto is Back. Oh, also Daisy Jones and the Six. I know I forgot that one, but that one's about a band in like the 60s, 70s. Carrie Soto is Back is about sports on the other hand. And I'm not big into sports, like I don't have an issue with it. I don't know, it's just not really my thing. But this is about a female tennis star, and you are seeing her trying to make this great comeback. And she's trying to make this great comeback specifically because someone is beating her record and she is not having any of that. She's like, no, like, I need to be the record holder. So she's older, like she's past the age of usual retirement for tennis players, but she is determined to make this amazing and great comeback. And it's just a story that totally, like, the thing about Taylor Jenkins Reid that I think sets her apart and why people love her book so much is she writes so realistically. Like, it feels like a biography. It feels like you're actually in the head of these characters and like they're real people. It's always really jarring when I finish one of her books that like these people don't actually exist, and that was exactly the case with Carrie Soto. There was kind of a point in this one where I found it was dragging a little bit and I was like, okay, I'm ready for the story to wrap up. It seemed like an ending, but then it picked up again very quickly. So there was kind of a lull where I felt like the story was done, but I understood like why it kept going, and then I was very invested in that ending, and I loved the way it ended. Like the last sentence, I was like, that is amazing. So yeah, this was a really great book, once again by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, next we have a book that I actually read during Bookmas. So if I have any reading vlogs where I read any of these, I will link them down below for you guys. But I read An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. This one I read as part of the boyfriend, like he wrapped the books that I was going to read that week. So this is one of the books that he chose to wrap, and I was really excited because I knew this was one that I was probably going to put off for a very long time. I read The Astonishing Color of After by this author, which was her debut book, and that was a few years ago now that I read that one, but I absolutely loved it. So I was really nervous for her next book, but I ended up loving this one too. It was really, really good. This is focusing on a Chinese myth, and it's a retelling of that in like a modern setting. Now, I'm not familiar with the original myth, so I was really surprised and wasn't sure what was happening the whole story, but it was such a creative take on that myth. It honestly read like a modern fairy tale, and that was very cool. Like, I was so blown away by what ended up happening. I was not expecting it because it's something that I'm not familiar with, and it just was fascinating to me in the end. It was so unexpected that I was like, wow, that's like a really unique read. And it honestly, this is just a modern fairy tale, and the writing of Emily X.R. Pan I love, and reading this just reminded me how much I love her writing. Actually, another book that I read in that reading vlog was Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. So this one my boyfriend picked because it has a wiener dog on it, so like that's not really surprising to me. That's very much him. But it is a Tita Rosie's kitchen mystery. So this book was pretty hyped up around when it came out. I feel like I was seeing it kind of everywhere, and it doesn't seem like something I would generally gravitate towards. It's usually not my cup of tea because I'm just not a huge fan of mysteries. Like, you know, everyone has their genre of choice and it's not mine. But this one I was like, there's a wiener dog on the cover and it's about cooking. Like, I feel like I need to give it a chance. And I'm glad that I did, because this was actually a mystery that I really liked. It is a cozy mystery, so that might be why. I don't think I'm gonna like venture very far into that genre. I still don't think it's exactly my cup of tea, but I do think I will read the rest of the books in this series because this one was a lot of fun. I'm not sure if they're like following the same characters or if it's companions. I'll have to look into that, but either way, they all have a wiener dog on the cover, so like I feel like I need it. Like it sounds, it's a cozy mystery, so it is a murder mystery. This girl, like her family owns this restaurant, and they end up actually being prime suspects in this murder, and it's kind of like a love triangle situation, which was unexpected. I don't think I've ever really read an adult romance that has a love triangle, but this one was actually a lot of fun. Like, as much as a murder mystery can be fun, it was kind of like a rom-com style murder mystery, so it was a lot of fun. Family and food were also such huge aspects of this story that I fell in love with. I loved the family and those vibes there, and also like the cooking. It just made me hungry. The last few books are definitely ones that I have talked about during Bookmas, but I wanted to talk about them more nonetheless because I have not done a recent reads video for them, so I've only really talked about them in the context of like different lists. So first we have Angel of Greenwood by Randy Pink. This book had been on my TBR for quite a while, and it was one that I was saving for like the right mindset, and I'm glad that I did because I ended up really enjoying it. So this is set during the Greenwood massacre, which is when a white mob viciously attacked the community of Greenwood, Oklahoma in the 1920s, and it was completely unprovoked and just this absolute like racist racist massacre. And it's a book that it's a time period rather that I have read a couple books that are set during that before. I think I've read 2, but the only one I can think of off the top of my head is Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Lapham. But this was very interesting because it was kind of a different take on things. So this story, it is starting with like just getting to know these characters and getting to know these kids and young people specifically who are living in Greenwood. And through the eyes of these 2 young characters, as they are like getting to know each other and realizing that they have feelings for each other, you're seeing them describe the other members of the community and what like the average day is like and what life is like in Greenwood. So it's known as Black Wall Street. It's a place where these Black communities are thriving. So you're seeing how they are existing and just getting to know that and like really being brought there. And then it's kind of like the whole time you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop because you know what the story is about, you know what ends up happening to them. So you're waiting for it to happen as you're just getting to know them. And I thought that was a really interesting way to tell the story because it kind of made me forget that like awful things were going to happen to these people. So it just brought it more to life, I guess, in a way, and made it even more shocking and absolutely devastating. I think my one thing with this book is it could have been a little bit longer. I would have liked to get kind of deeper into the actual main characters because I think a lot of it was the setting and seeing the setting through their eyes, but I really would have liked to get to know them a little bit more. I loved how the teachings of someone like W.E.B. Du Bois, that was brought into it. So it was really kind of an intellectual look at things, but at the same time, I think in ways it did stay just on the surface and I would have liked to kind of delve a bit deeper, but I think this is a fantastic book that like really should be read by everyone. Speaking of a book that I think everyone should read, I've talked about this book quite a bit, so I will keep it short and sweet, but The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson, I haven't gotten the chance to talk about in a recent reads video. I loved this book. It was like the perfect cozy read, exactly what I was needing. It is about a girl who ends up helping this old man who has been riding the same bus for 60 years, trying to find this woman that he met one day on that bus, and he has been waiting to see if she'll show up again. And it's a love story for her, but for him it's like he wants to see this woman again because he wants to thank her, and like she changed her life even though they met for such a brief moment, and he wants to thank her for that. And I just thought it was so beautiful and so sweet. Like oh my god, I got so invested in this story. It gave me all of the feels and was absolutely amazing. I think that if you did like this one, then you should check out the Guncle, and if you did like the Guncle, you should check out this one because it kind of had the same like just really heartwarming vibes. Next is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. So I figured out when I was filming my holiday recent reads video that I had been getting this book completely mixed up with Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane. They are both like sapphic love stories that are set around the holidays. Like this one isn't a Christmas book, but there is a period of time where it's set around the holidays. So I just kept on getting the 2 mixed up, but now I think I've separated them in my mind enough. I did like both of them, so that's a good thing. However, I think I read them a little bit too close together, which happens sometimes. I try and space out like similar reads so then that doesn't happen. But this is a Grumpy Sunshine sapphic romance, and it was so cute. It's Grumpy Sunshine and it's fake dating, and I completely understood the premise for the fake dating. It absolutely made sense to me. And I think that's another reason why I keep on getting the 2 mixed up, is because the other one has fake dating as well, although it's like very different fake dating. It's just, they are inseparable in my mind. And the brother is involved. That's why. Like, they are very similar. I swear I'm not just being like, these 2 books are sapphic, so they're the same. No, like, they both have the brother. They both deal with families over the holidays and going to see family over the holidays. And they both have fake dating. Like, there's a lot of similarities here, okay? But like I said, Grumpy Sunshine done so well. Like, I didn't realize I like that trope so much. And I felt like they were such a good match. And the fake dating totally made sense to me because the reason that they start this fake dating arrangement is because I'm gonna give them names because it's gonna be too hard. I never remember character names. Elle's brother is Darcy's co-worker, and her brother, he is like really on her, trying to like set her up with the perfect match. So then she ends up, to get him off of her back, she says that the date with Darcy went really well, even though it actually didn't. So then they have this whole fake dating ruse, and it's just really cute. I liked this one a lot. I definitely understand the hype. Okay, and the last book that I want to talk about today is Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. When I go into fantasies now, I'm never sure how I'm gonna feel about it. I'm always kind of a little bit nervous because I don't know if I'm gonna love it or hate it or just kind of feel indifferent. I feel like most of the times with YA fantasies, I usually feel indifferent, to be honest, but this one I became really invested in and ended up absolutely loving it. It was such a cool world and magic system. Like, it's kind of technological and in a totally different way than I was expecting with these like chrysalid, like those thingies. I will say, I don't think it's the author's fault. I think that they did a really good job, but I think I just had a hard time kind of like picturing everything. I was trying to picture these like great giant things, but I was having a little bit of issues with it. But the heroine was so different than anything I've read, and the like relationships in here also, this was just such like an actually brutal like fantasy. I feel like a lot of times it describes as like a dark fantasy and an unlikable main character, like morally gray, whatever, and then it's not. But this one absolutely was. It had me like my mind spinning. I didn't know what was gonna happen next, and yeah, I totally understand why this one is so hyped up. It is really good, and I definitely am going to need to read the sequel. I'm not big on sequels, but this one I'm gonna have to check out. Okay, so I tried to be really fast, but this video is still 20 minutes long, but whatever. At least the raw footage, it will be shorter than that. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts on them, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!